So,
Yeah.
let's get started.
Okay.
Okay. So, I am here today on Creators Weekly with Miss Steph Sparrow. She is an amazing artist, a shop owner of tattoos, Rose and Rivets, here in Santa Paula, California, among other things. And that is why I really wanted to get to know you. And I'm going to let you kind of introduce some of the other things that you do, because I bet you people don't know.
Well, the question is, where do you want me to start? Like, how far back do you want me to go?
Kind of far back. I met you a couple years ago now.
Right.
It was 2018.
Yeah. Creators Collective.
I stalked you online probably before that because I used to live in Santa Paula.
Okay,
and
cool.
so I'd pass your shop all the time when it was coming up and coming. And so yes, I met you at the Creators Collective.
Right.
And you had intrigued me since then with your musical background. So I want you to go far back.
Well, I was a professional musician. That's what I did basically for a living, full time.
Instrument, singer, lyricist, ska, what's going on?
It's kind of an all-encompassing title because I wore so many different hats.
Okay.
So I started playing music when I was really young. Okay. So I started out as a pianist, and I got into college super early before I had even actually graduated from high school. So technically, I never graduated from high school. Hi. Yeah. But I got into USC into their music composition program.
Awesome.
When I was I got accepted when I was 15, and so I went to USC when I was 16.
You're amazing.
So I moved out here from Ohio to LA when I was 16 and started studying basically like conservatory style classical music as a composer. So I was a trained classical music composer, and that was my background.
I'm literally getting chills because in my mind, just to hear that a university wanted you to come to their program at that age says so much about your talent. So definitely that's something I wanted to hear about. Oh my gosh.
It was definitely a wild ride because I was from a very conservative evangelical family in small town Ohio.
Okay.
And then I moved to LA and went to USC when I was 16.
Culture shock? Yeah. To say the least, maybe.
Yeah. It was complete insanity for me, and in the best possible way, because it just opened my eyes to so many different types of people and so many different types of lifestyles and things that I never would have been exposed to.
And it was probably really good at that age because you're kind of coming into your own around that time.
Absolutely.
And to be able to see so many diverse people probably set you up for the rest of your life without you you probably realized it by then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one heck of a ride. And at that time, because I was so young, when I graduated from college, I was only 20. And I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I had it in my head that, I wanted to be like this art music composer, so like a classical composer. And I also wanted to be a college professor at that age.
Awesome.
And so I ended up pursuing a master's degree and a doctorate. I completed both of those, and so I did a master's degree at the University of Michigan,
oh my gosh.
Finished in 98, and finished a PhD at UC San Diego in 2005. And I jumped right into teaching. But the thing was, with teaching, I felt like I didn't have a right to teach people how to make music if I wasn't actually making music myself and making a living doing it.
Okay. That right there to me is very powerful because it's kind of weird, but I've always felt this with people who are instructors, people who are teachers, people who, if you're trying to teach something but you're not living it, I get that because when I walk into a hair salon, for example, I kind of want my hairstylist to have cool hair. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to show me what you can do because I'm all about the vibe, but I'm also about like people being what they talk about, So I really like that. I think that's a cool mentality, and I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really, it was really important to me to always have a foot in the real world. And it went against all the conventional advice that everybody had ever given me.
Sure.
Like when I was doing a doctorate, everybody told me that was like a mentor or anything like that. Everybody told me, you need to just focus on school. You need to not have a job. Just take out student loans. And I'm really proud of myself that one, I was on scholarship the whole time.
Good for you. Yeah, that's amazing.
But I worked 4 jobs while I was going to school. And some of those jobs involved a lot of freelancing. So I started freelancing as young as 17. So back in 1995 was when my freelance career as a musician started.
Okay.
So I tried to expand my skill set like as wide as I could with music, which again was counterintuitive to all of the conventional wisdom. Everybody's like, oh, you need to just focus on writing because my degrees were in composition. But I was out playing the piano, I was accompanying, I learned how to play the church organ.
That's cool.
I got into opera in my early 20s, so I was doing...
That intrigues me as well. It's so emotional to me. Opera is just a beautiful art form.
It's still my favorite.
Same.
It's still my favorite,
One of mine. I'm dying. I have not seen The Phantom of the Opera. It's so cliche, but I'm dying to see that with my mom one day. One day.
You'll get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That already is really interesting because it's one of those things, don't judge a book by its cover. Like,
Absolutely.
I see you with tattoos. I know that you own a tattoo shop. And to know that you were a classical composer, you are still, you can still make music. You can still do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It's surprising, but in the most beautiful way. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then did it lead into other types of music or?
Absolutely. Okay. So I had a couple different streams going that whole time. Okay. So in my early 20s, I got into theater. And so I started working as a theatrical sound designer.
People.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Theater, I should say better.
Exactly. When my boyfriend says I'm being dramatic, I just say it's my theater background.
Exactly.
I can't help it.
You see that one?
Exactly. And so I got into sound design. I did basically an apprenticeship at the La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego.
Okay.
And so I really learned on the job. And so I was using music technology all the time. I was writing music for theater productions and designing. And so I stepped it up to professional level designing for an A-level company in 2005 at the San Diego Repertory Theater. And I did sound design professionally for 17 years.
Wow.
Theatrical sound design. And I've literally been all over the world doing theater.
That's amazing.
And music for theater. So that was really my biggest area of focus, was that. But at the same time, I loved heavy metal. And so in my late 20s, I started fronting metal bands and playing keyboards for metal bands. So I did that as well and worked in recording studios. So when I started teaching full-time after I graduated, I got hired at San Diego City College in downtown San Diego. Okay. And it was a vocational program.
What a beautiful place to be.
It was
amazing.
San Diego's
amazing.
The best.
Yes. I would move there in a heartbeat. I love San Diego.
San Diego's gorgeous. And I taught for San Diego City College for 14 years.
Oh my gosh.
So I was the head of their digital music technology program from 2005 to 2013. And I ran the whole program, and it was essentially, a studio training course to teach people how to use Pro Tools and work in recording studios. And so I could bring in the design experience, all the band experience, and the real world experience, and the hustle, and that kind of stuff. So it was a really good fit for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You really do it all. Like, do you still teach people how to do recording and things like that?
So I officially retired from the world of music when I turned 40.
Okay.
And
which you don't look a day over 21, 22. Swear, you're like so cute.
Well, thanks.
It might be your
try.
Radiant soul, just, man, I don't know.
It's all the clean living.
There you go.
I retired from music at 40, and so I don't teach anymore. My focus entirely is on my business here in Santa Paula now. So
how did music translate into your artwork and being a tattoo artist?
It's kind of a weird story. It's kind of a long story.
They're my favorite. I love weird stories. I'm a creative weirdo, so I love it. Bring it on.
Well, being that I was an academic type, I'm really interested in history and like where things come from. And I started getting tattooed just about 20 years ago. I got my first tattoo about 20 years ago, and it's like the most ridiculous, horrible story of what not to do. The way I got my first tattoo, it's like, kids, don't do what I did.
From a tattoo shop owner, take that advice.
Yeah, please. So I started getting tattooed about 20 years ago, and then I just started collecting a bunch of tiny little
pieces,
tiny little tattoos, like most people do. And in 2005, someone really close to me died, and that was my great aunt, and she was the one relative that I had a really, really close relationship with. So she died of leukemia. She was 80, and we were super, super close. And so when she died, I wanted to get a tattoo in tribute to her. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I wanted a memorial tattoo, and she was born in the 1920s. So I went to the tattoo shop where I'd been getting all these little tiny pieces all over my back. And I asked for the artist that I had worked with previously. I just walked in one day and I said, hey, my aunt died. I want her name tattooed on my shoulder with a heart, but I want it to look like it was tattooed in the year that she was born, in the 1920s.
That's cool.
So he pulled out this book of vintage tattoo flash, which that means tattoo designs.
Right.
And he started showing me all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. So he gave me this really amazing tattoo on my shoulder, and then I got hooked. In classic Steph fashion, if I do something, I do it.
You do.
No halfway.
And you follow through. Like, I love that. Okay, so the little heart tattoo led into
getting obsessed with the history of tattoos.
Okay.
And so I started just researching, and I found like the Tattoo Archive in North Carolina and their website, and just looking up all these old school artists, and I found this like really cool book that was all of Sailor Jerry's like letters to Ed Hardy, and just reading about all this, and I was like, I need all the old school tattoos, like World War II era, and it was like stuff that was really inspired by my aunt and her generation, because her husband had been in Japan during World War II. It was like all these naval themed tattoos. I was just like obsessed. I went down this rabbit hole, and I was in a new career, tenure track, but I was obsessed with tattoos, and I was like, this is really weird. Yeah. Do I want to teach? Do I want to tattoo? And I decided at that time that full-time academia wasn't for me.
Okay. And that's okay. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Totally fine.
Absolutely. So I got super obsessed. I kept getting more and more tattoos, and I tried, like, I wanted more than anything to apprentice and learn how to tattoo. So the artist that gave me the initial tattoo, I was like begging him to apprentice me. And he sent me away 3 times and tried to pawn me off on other people, and kept saying no, 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 because he had never apprenticed anybody. Okay. And he had been tattooing since the 80s and never taken an apprentice.
Quick side note here. So when you're an apprentice, I know minimally about that. So how does that typically work? Is it different with every tattoo artist who decides to take on an apprentice? It looks a little different, or is it pretty much standard across the industry?
Nothing in tattooing is standard.
Okay.
So that's the thing.
Because I have a couple friends that are apprenticing. Actually, one was here,
Oh, awesome.
And I just find it interesting, the devotion and the dedication to it.
Definitely. It's one of those things, because nothing in the tattoo business is really standardized, and because the business has been so underground for so long, that's why there's not much information on like how to get an apprenticeship. So I've seen there's kind of like 2 types. There's a shop apprentice, where you're basically like working for the whole shop, and everybody kind of teaches you, and you're basically doing full-time work for free. Like you're scrubbing toilets and scrubbing people's tubes and cleaning up.
From here, working your way up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you can be an individual artist apprentice. And that was what I was. So I followed around this particular artist. His name's Stephen Mast. He's still working.
How did you end up convincing him to take you? Was it just the persistence?
I think he said something like, I knew you were never going to go away. Because I can be a little stubborn. So, and I think he just took pity on me. I like it. Honestly.
Around what age were you when that happened?
I was 29.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I was 29. So, and very established in classical music, very established in academia.
Career in general.
And everybody thought I was crazy. I lost more friends when I started apprenticing.
See, that's a really, so on these interviews, I like to touch on like struggles and mental health as much as you're comfortable with.
Oh, sure.
So just with that, I got chills, because being a creative person and not always knowing exactly what I want to do in life, I do seem to jump from this to that, to that, to this, but it's always with the same intent. Like, I'm fulfilling myself, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm meant to do in this world, and figure out my talents still, and figure out where I thrive. And So I have lost friends along the way. As silly as it seems, you would think your friends are the people that encourage you to keep trying to find what makes you happy. So how was that when you started losing friends? Were you so focused on your craft that you didn't care, or did you ever take a really hard hit with a friendship? Because I had a couple that hit me kind of hard. I'm like, oh, sure. I can't believe we're growing apart. We've been friends for so long, you know?
Yeah, I'm human. It was really difficult, and it definitely caused a rift with, with my family as well, because my family was so conservative that my mother didn't speak to me for several months after I told her that I was starting to learn how to tattoo. I actually hid my tattoos from my family until after I had been in the business for like about a year or 2 years. Okay. I didn't even tell anybody in my family back home that I was working and that I was in it, and I told my dad first, and he said, we're never going to talk about this. And then after that, when I told my mother, she basically lost it, and she said, I can't support you living this immoral lifestyle. And that was really, really, really difficult.
Oh, that makes me want to cry right now. Yeah. I'm such an emotional person.
It's okay, I feel you. I cry all the time.
I get it. That's insane to me, because I see you as such a successful, beautiful, radiant person, and it's like, my heart feels for you. That's insane.
It was definitely, like, on the personal level, I weathered a lot. I was also, the other part of it, just on a personal level, I was married at the time.
Okay.
And my ex-husband was not supportive of me doing it.
Really?
He said that I was wasting all of our money by getting into it, and again, it's one of these things, I've seen a pattern in my own life and I think as a creative, you can probably relate to this. It's like you kind of have to go with your intuition and with what it's telling you. And there was always this pull for me toward tattooing. And anytime I've felt that pull towards something, like very, very strongly, it's like there's been a lot of external forces coming at me, whether it's in the form of relationships or something else, people telling you from the outside that you're crazy. And in general, for me now, that's been the sign that I'm on the right path.
There you go.
Because it's not the conventional wisdom. It's like, had I listened to the conventional wisdom, I would not be where I am today.
So true.
It was like when I was in school and all my professors were telling me, hey, you need to just focus on classical music and take out student loans to meet your living expenses. I would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, you know?
And see, that's the point of not living conventionally or within the structure of society of what people think you should be doing.
Exactly.
I grew up probably pretty similarly. My parents were really young, so they always felt like they had something to prove to society around them. They wanted to stay together because they didn't want, to be that young couple that didn't make it. They had a baby too young. So they enforced or engraved in me to always stick in a structure and try to do the white picket fence thing and this and that. Now I'm really grateful that they've opened their minds and they see all of us. There's 9 of us all together.
Oh, wow.
3 biological and 6 adopted.
It's amazing.
We're an amazing, colorful family, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And to be able to see my parents parenting my younger siblings, who are all under 15 now, is so beautiful that they embrace whatever creativity they have and whatever's out of the norm, because I have a younger brother who's a YouTuber. He's got thousands of subscribers. He's amazing. My other brother, they both actually do like a cigar review thing on YouTube too. And I think it's really cool that people change and people can grow. And my structure really kept me hindered and made me self-doubt a lot as I was kind of coming into whatever I'm blossoming into now, because I'm still growing and still learning and trying to figure out where I fit in this world, like most people. But I think it's okay not to know now,
Oh, definitely. I don't think we ever really know. That's the other thing I've learned, because I'm 42 now, 42 years old, and I still feel like I haven't figured it out exactly what I want to do, but I think part of maturity is being
done, right? That's
being at peace with that.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
Yeah, there's unending possibilities for your creative spirit as you get older. And it's never too late to pursue those.
So true. So important. To really believe that too, because like we were talking a little while ago off camera, we sometimes are our biggest hurdle. We're literally the only thing holding ourselves back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I always say. This is what Creators Weekly is for me. Like, I was scared to put myself on camera. I'd wanted to do YouTube for 10 plus years, being a YouTube fiend, just watching everyone else.
Right.
And like, if I would have done it 10 years ago, I could have been a huge influencer. But now I know that my path wasn't necessarily to like be a huge influencer. I now know I'm more about the human connection. So whether it's one person that I connect with or 20 people or 20,000 people, it doesn't matter. It's now for me, for my soul, for my healing. And I think it's really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm excited too to hear about your YouTube journey. Are we allowed to talk about that?
We can.
Yay.
Yeah, we can. I can tell you whatever you want about the shop and where I'm at now and the YouTube journey, because I do have a couple of channels.
So I get carried away and really excited. So
you
led into the tattooing.
Right.
How did you end up owning your own shop here in Santa Paula? We were at where you were married. Sorry, I always do that to people. I get really carried away.
No.
So you were married.
I was.
It was a struggle at that time, kind of the relationship because of the money, which money is a huge issue in a lot of relationships.
Oh, don't I know? Yeah. Don't I know? Yeah, my ex-husband was an academic, and he was very singularly focused on one goal, whereas I always had a lot of different streams of things that I was doing. Because I always saw, like, if I just have one thing going on, what if that one thing dries up, you know? So I've always had my hands in a lot of different pots, so to speak.
So smart.
And pulling streams of income from different sources to know that I could always provide for myself should anything happen.
That is so smart.
And so the whole story was I was tattooing and working in San Diego, and I apprenticed there. I was at Avalon Tattoo in San Diego.
Shout out. Are they still around?
They are not.
Okay,
they closed after, I don't know, it was like 20 or 25 years of business a few years ago. Kind of a legendary shop that was female owned. And it was a really great shop. And I ended up moving and relocating with my ex-husband back to Massachusetts in 2011 for a job that he got. And I gave up tenure, I gave up my career, I gave up like all my musical connections, all my theater stuff. I moved with him back to Massachusetts at that time.
And your tattooing?
And the tattooing. I gave up everything and moved with him. And it was a really difficult decision to make because, it was like, do I want to be married? Do I want to follow this person there? And, it was really, I can't even say how difficult it was.
I can just imagine, Do I follow my life path? Or do I
follow this person
that
I've been
their
with?
Path? But who you love. Love is always a factor.
Absolutely, yeah.
But sometimes we have to love ourselves a little bit more.
Exactly. And, there has to be that balance of, both people need to have the space to, explore, what they feel is right for them.
Definitely.
In a good relationship. So I ended up on the East Coast in Western Massachusetts in a tiny little town where I didn't know anybody and where there was basically no musical scene. I couldn't get a job tattooing right away because the towns there all regulate tattooing independently, so they all have different kinds of regulations. And in Western Mass, every town there required that you had to have like a Massachusetts-based license for 3 years, and my shop time was all in California and back in Ohio. So I was
Makes it almost impossible.
It made it impossible.
Yeah.
So I ended up connecting with a group of friends in Worcester, Mass, which is in central Massachusetts. It was like a little over an hour away from where I was living. And I got involved with the music scene there. So I connected with people through mutual friends from LA. Cool. And so I got involved with the music scene there, and I got involved with the tattoo scene and got a job. And so I started working in central Massachusetts, and after I had worked there for several years, it became the time for me to strike it out on my own and with a business partner there, and she was awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we opened up our studio there.
Awesome.
And so that was probably about 5 years ago or something like that.
Okay.
And so
how long was that partnership there?
So it didn't last that long because what ended up happening is it was shortly after I opened, I got divorced.
Okay.
And it was just this cataclysmic, crazy event. I had been with my ex-husband for more than 15 years.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah, it was crazy. And divorce is bad, even in the best of circumstances. And mine was horrible. It was like the worst possible. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic, but it was like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
But I came out of it. I survived. I had my cat. I had my car, and I had my business. And I was like, I don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
I have my cat, my car, and my business. I survived.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got divorced, I got in a relationship with an old friend and ended up relocating to Ventura County with him. And neither of us knew anybody here. And
what made you guys choose Ventura?
You know, it's weird. I don't really know.
Okay.
He was living in Bakersfield at the time.
Okay.
I was living in Massachusetts. Thank you, Facebook.
Yeah.
And we dated for about a year, long distance.
Long distance, okay.
Yeah. And after we had hung out like for the first time in years, he asked me, he said just randomly, it was like toward the end of the visit, he's like, hey, my youngest son is graduating from high school. I've always wanted to move to Ventura. You want to go? And I was like, sure.
Randomly, I love it. I love it. But was it the best decision of your life?
It was the best.
I feel like, you said Bakersfield. My family lives in Bakersfield.
Oh, okay,
so I think that's really cool. I hope I would have met you either there or here.
Yeah, probably, right?
I'm glad that I've gotten to meet you. That's really cool to just pick a place and
start over.
Go. Yeah, and really be able to start over.
Right.
That's the beauty of not knowing people.
Exactly.
You can reinvent yourself.
Exactly.
I love that.
It was a good, fresh start, and it was, you know, a relatively new relationship, new place in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I always called it Life 2.0.
Love
I'm
it.
living for myself now. I have a really supportive partner, and I chose Santa Paula. This is the weird thing. So.
Which no one really chooses Santa Paula, so that's interesting. I'm waiting for that one.
I chose Santa Paula because when we moved here, I knew I wanted to go back to flight school.
Okay.
And
which we haven't even gotten into yet, and I'm so excited.
And I knew about the Santa Paula Airport and about CP Aviation. I had a lifelong love of aviation from the time I was a little tiny girl. So I'd always wanted to go get my pilot's license, and I thought, well, maybe I could become a flight instructor.
That's cool.
Because there's part of me that misses teaching,
okay,
but I like teaching applicable skills. I don't like teaching academic stuff.
Right.
Like useful stuff.
I get that. Yeah, there's so much in life that you need to learn, and it's not taught in schools.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's cool.
So I came out here one day after I'd been living here for maybe a month. So we moved to Ventura, I want to say it was in March. 3 years ago.
Okay.
And in April, I went down to the airport. I'm just pointing out the door of my shop because it's literally down the block. We went to the airport to book my intro flight.
Okay.
And so I could start flight school. And I didn't have a job at the time. I was just teaching online. I didn't know if I was going to tattoo again or what I was going to do. I didn't know anybody here.
Were you scared?
Of course.
Okay.
I just imagine
you this like brave, badass woman.
No.
And you are, but yeah, I would be terrified.
Part of being a badass, I think, is allowing yourself to like sob in the shower.
Yeah, there you go. Alone. Yeah, exactly. Then I'm a badass because I do that all the time.
Samesies. So we booked my intro flight, and then we were driving up the street, and I had been telling my boyfriend, I was like, if I'm going to open up by myself, we're not going to find the perfect shop location online. Like, we're not going to find it by looking at a real estate site or a rental site or anything like that.
It's a feeling.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to find a hand-painted sign in a window, and that's going to be the spot. Like, I just know it. I'm going to find it walking around or something. So we booked the intro flight. We drove up 10th Street. I looked on the left-hand side of the road, and I saw a spray-painted, like, sheet or something in the window.
Oh, my God, I love it.
And it said for rent in Spanish. And I said to Craig, I said, stop the car. And he's like, what? And I was like, stop the car. I got out, ran across the street, because we were parked in front of the oil museum across the street, ran across the street, I looked in, and I saw this amazing floor, which I don't know if you can see in the shot, but it's this great...
Black and white, checkered. I'll get a shot later.
It's amazing.
If you can't see it.
Amazing floor, and I looked in, and I saw a sink hookup. I saw that there was an office. I was just like,
What is this? Yeah.
Was this a tattoo shop? Like, because it was, having owned a shop before, I knew what to look for. And I was like, I call the number right now. And he's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, call that number right now. And it was the number of my landlord, who just owns the shop on the corner, the Western Wear shop on the corner.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And he came over, let us in, and there were sink hookups in the back, everything I would need for a bio room, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, how much do you need? He told me. I went to the bank, I pulled out a couple $1,000s in cash, I handed it to him, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm opening up in Santa Paula.
Oh my God.
That was that.
So cool. And little side note is that's actually how I saw your shop the first time.
Yep.
Is there was a sign in the window, I believe it had said like something like looking for local artists, like something to hang pictures, artwork in here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I parked across the street.
Oh my gosh.
Ran off my car because my husband is an artist.
Right.
And we have so many artist friends. I was like, this is so cool. What is this place? Maybe he can get a job there. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I just saw the sign and I ran across the street and I took a picture of it and I sent it to him. Later on, I developed and realized like what this was going to be and how it was female owned, and I thought that was awesome. And then lo and behold, I got to meet you shortly after that at the Creators Collective.
Oh,
isn't that cool? The world works in crazy ways. And I actually never thought I would live in Santa Paula. I have a lot of family that lives here, but I've always been a Ventura girl. We lived in Santa Paula for about 3 years, and it was probably the happiest times of my life. I love Santa Paula.
It's a great town. I live in Ventura myself, but I spend more time in Santa Paula than I ever spent in Ventura because between being in flight school and being here, I'm here 6 or 7 days a week. So
how does the flight school fit into your schedule of being a boss? I was gonna say a boss bitch. I don't ever say that, but you are a boss bitch. How does that fit into running your own business? I'm sure you're not putting down educating people just yet and doing the flight school. Like, how do you do all that?
Well, it's convenient because the flight school's down the road. True. So I can fly before work, or I can duck out for a couple of hours,
and I can do a car ride. Like, I could just duck out.
I can duck out for a couple of hours and go fly somewhere and come back. And
so cool.
And I do that pretty frequently. And so that's part of the need to have your own business, is to like have that flexibility to be able to do that. I guess I feel compelled to say, like one of the lessons I've learned from flying more than anything that I think is really important, especially for women, and just so everybody knows, only about 6% of pilots are women. Okay, so there's not many female pilots out there.
Okay.
The biggest lesson for me for flying is like learning how to be assertive and to ask for what you need. And
so important.
That lesson carries over into business so frequently for me. Like to be very assertive and say, I need X, Y, and Z to make this happen. So there's like this really good overlap with like life skills. I feel like this like advocating for yourself, because you have to be
when you're
when you're in the air. Yeah,
you have no other choice. I need this.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's been really
made
powerful.
you a better businesswoman.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And you have officially been in this shop how long?
I've been here, so my lease started almost 3 years ago.
Okay.
So April of 2017 is when my lease started. I opened on September 1st of 2017.
Okay.
So I pushed it through in like the whole process with all the permitting and the public hearing. I had to go through a public hearing here to be able to get a conditional use permit and all this crazy stuff in less than 5 months. And it was really, really stressful. The day I opened, I had $90 left to my name, and that was interesting. But I
love hearing those stories, because so many people do see the success. Like, you're a successful shop, and I see your life online, and you're just as beautiful in real life as you are online. But we don't see the struggle as much. And I think that's so important for people to know that every successful story and every successful person has their own journey that we're not a witness to, so like we were talking about crying in the shower or whatever the case is, like those are real things that happen. And that's why people shouldn't give up. Whatever you are pulled and called for in life, it will happen, whether you are a penniless artist or a very successful one or whatever the case is. Like, I think we're all put on this planet for something. And
definitely.
I think it's really cool that you just stuck with it and you didn't give up on yourself. That's amazing.
Well, there's really no secret to anything, and that's what I figured out is like there's no real like I was always looking for permission to do something or permission to be to be a certain way, but there's no secret to doing something other than actually doing it.
And you can fail. That's part of most of the successes is the failure.
Absolutely.
But getting back up and doing it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We all have those hit your knees moments, and it's just part of the process, and it's part of learning, and it can be really, really beautiful as much as it is difficult. So, yeah.
I know that you've taken apprentices here as well, and I know a few actual artists that work out of here, and Brenda, who does the permanent makeup or the brow guru in Ventura County. Yeah, I've been dying to get my brows done. I just can't afford her yet. She's but amazing, well worth it. So I feel like in a sense you've always kind of still been a teacher to people as far as business-wise and,
for sure,
the apprenticeships and now relating into your pilot. That's awesome.
For sure, yeah. I really enjoy teaching people skills that empower themselves. And so I've told everybody that I've apprenticed here, I'm like, I don't expect you to stay with me forever, but what I feel really good about is giving you a skill that no one can ever take away from you.
So true.
Like, this is a skill that you can use to make a living anywhere around the world. And
it's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's learning a craft, learning a trade, I think is really, really, really important.
Super. I've always thought that as well. I think, like you had said, dabbling in all these different things, because even the most successful people don't stick to one thing. Like, once you're financially successful, I'd like to say, you're going to be investing in other things to keep those incomes going. So
of course,
at my level and people that are like me that are still trying to pull all these different incomes, you have to. It's way better to have a trade that can, several trades and utilize them anywhere or be able to move anywhere and use something that you've learned along the way as skill set. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Exactly.
What are your future plans for this shop? Or do you plan on expanding? Do you want to stay in Santa Paula? Do you No, you don't know yet. And because once you start, are you going to start flying commercially? Like, would that be a dream?
No, it's not. Okay. Yeah, well, and looking how I do, as you can tell, I have a tattooed neck and tattooed hands. I can't fly for the airlines. So
they don't let you.
They don't allow you to fly with any visible tattoos. So I'm very limited with what I can do as a commercially rated pilot. I would be very limited with what I could do. So I'm interested in instruction because I just like that one-on-one with people, but I'm open to a lot of possibilities. As for now, I'm really happy with the way things are in this shop, and my biggest goal is to just keep mentoring young people into the business and to see all of our clientele grow. I mean, it was a really big goal of mine to provide a safe and inclusive space for anyone to get tattooed, and seeing that kind of like momentum with this business, like a very large majority of my my clients here are LGBTQ, and you know, it's a really different kind of environment in here than it is in a lot of other tattoo shops. And I'm not throwing shade at other shops or anything like that.
I can vouch for that. Just walking in here, it's a different.
It's a different vibe.
I don't look like it, but I have, I think, 8 tattoos. I'm trying to get more. But I've been to tattoo shops, multiple tattoo shops, and this one just gives you this breath of fresh air. Maybe it's the beautiful colors, maybe it's all the artwork you have up. It's just not dark and dreary like most shops that I've been to, which that's fine too. You know, they still do great tattoo work, but this just gives you a different feel. I like it. Yeah,
I'm kind of trying to like break down the walls around, you know, I have this huge love of old school tattooing, but what I don't love about the institution of old school tattooing is this kind of like almost bro mentality with it, where it's like so underground, you have to be cool enough to know, or you have to like earn the knowledge or earn the tattoo and that sort of thing. I feel like that does us all a disservice. And, times have changed, culture's changed, why can't we celebrate and be inclusive and be transparent about what we're doing? I mean, it's a tattoo. It's just a tattoo. That's all it is. You're decorating your body, you're expressing yourself. So why not have a really open, inviting environment where we give you the information about what it's going to look like, how it's going to age, and instead of like keeping all the knowledge to ourselves. Yeah. So like for me, I'm about sharing that knowledge. And
you really are, because I noticed that on your page too. You're starting to share, or you might have been doing this for a while, but I just caught on to it, where people ask tattoo questions.
That's you.
I really like it, because I think it's questions that people, obviously they're asking,
right,
because more than one person has the same question. Right. I've always had a question, actually.
Oh, you can ask.
So one thing that I learned was the aftercare, how the aftercare is different from different artists. Mm-hmm. But have you had people, well, I guess this isn't a question. I guess it's more like when they're nervous to get a tattoo because of the aging process, like themselves aging, like, oh my God, I don't want to get it here because I'm going to look weird when I'm older.
Right.
My mentality has always been, when I'm so old and wrinkly or whatever you want to call it, maybe I could just wear a sweater, and not even show. Yeah. But like, do you have people that are nervous to get it in certain spaces, and you have to kind of give them a minute to decide if they're going to go for it or not?
Of course. Yeah, definitely. I would say where people like debate where they're going to put it, when you have somebody like that that's debating back and forth, more often than not, it's not about aging. It's about whether or not their family is going to see it.
Okay.
And I had a young woman in here a few days ago. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell your name.
That's okay. I'll never know.
She was lovely, and she was getting a beautiful little cross with the word familia in it. It was just like so pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty.
But she kept wanting to get it up higher and higher and higher toward the inside of her armpit. And I was like, you don't want to put that in your armpit, because one, that's going to really, really, really hurt. Yeah. And it's kind of a difficult area because it gets really, really like stretchy in there and doesn't heal as well. So I was trying to coach her a little bit further down on the inner bicep, and I was like, why do you need it placed up so high? And she's like, I don't want my mom to see it. And so there was like this deep irony that she was getting something for her family.
Oh, that's
but then didn't want her family to get mad at her for having it. And, having gone through a lot of the stuff that I went through, it was like my heart really goes out to people, when they're making those decisions. So I do see that a lot. Probably the other common question I get is from young women about pregnancy and getting things tattooed like on their lower abdomen or their hips. And I usually caution people like, hey, if you do plan to have children, you may want to think about a different placement because it will distort.
See, and I think that's really good of you, because it's not about the money, it's about what's best for the client and their future plans, because it is a permanent, situation.
Absolutely.
So I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that about you.
Yeah.
Do you have any, well, the other thing that I really wanted to compliment you on is that
thanks.
I know that you guys do, out of the shop, you've had a lot of, what I guess it's like benefits for you're a cat lady. You love cat, and I say that as a dog lady. I'm a dog lady. I love all
dogs
animals.
Too.
Yeah, I love all animals.
I have a dog too. Yeah,
and maybe that's why you've done so much in your life. You have 9 lives. You've done so many different things. But I love that you've incorporated, benefiting. How do I say that? Like was it the Humane Society, or what was the?
I've done some things for Spark.
There you go. I was trying to think of the word.
I did do a fundraiser where I split the proceeds. It was half the proceeds went to Milo Sanctuary, which is out in Palmdale. It's a special needs cat rescue.
I love that.
I had an old friend of mine worked there, and then I split the proceeds between there and Spark, and it was the same weekend as CatCon. So I'm not just a cat lady, I'm like cat obsessed. So like,
I love it.
Yeah, a little known fact about me is I only get cat tattoos on me personally. So
love it. Let me see these.
Well, I have more
now,
I have more than 30 cat tattoos.
I
so
love
it's
it. And you have
crazy.
you have flash sheets that are cat, right? Don't you have?
I love cats.
I love it.
They make good
tattoos.
They're cat tattoos. They're super cute.
This is true.
But I did the Still Not Asking For It flash event for 2 years, which goes to it's an international flash event where all 100% of the proceeds for a day go to a rape crisis center. So all of my proceeds went to the Coalition for Family Harmony in Oxnard. So I did that for 2 years. And then I did a Thomas Fire benefit
right
around the time of the Thomas Fire. So I've done
That's
quite a
what
bit.
I
of stuff
love
like that.
is you're involved in the community, you're part of the community, you're making a difference in people's lives. So I really think that's cool. And one of the things that I admire about you, because not every business owner has the means to do that, and let alone does it, whether they have the means or not. So I think that's really cool.
It's been a really good way to be involved in the community.
And to know other good people.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
exactly. And you're giving back. And
that's
so,
true.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you have anything up and coming for the shop or anything? I mean, we didn't really touch on what your YouTube is going to be about.
We can.
Spoiler alert right here. You heard it here first.
You can. Well, upcoming for the shop, I am starting a YouTube channel for the shop. So
I love it.
Should have it launched in the next few weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm planning to start shooting this week.
Special guest just come in. I'm just going to pop in. Hey guys.
Of course. Yeah, of course you can. And it's going to be called Ask the Tattoo Professor.
Oh my gosh.
So
I love it.
I want to answer all of your questions about tattoos. Like,
oh my gosh.
You know, I know how it is a lot of times when you walk into a shop and nobody looks at you or nobody talks to you and it's hard to get real information. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about anybody else, but it's just been my experience in the industry. You know, I want to offer a space where people can ask anything they want about tattoos, to not be shamed for not knowing the right answer, you know, because so many tattooers are so guarded about industry secrets.
Yes.
And I'll answer whatever questions you have. So I'm planning to do a pretty, you know, like short videos where I just address like one topic. Like one's definitely going to be on aftercare. So I've been compiling lists of like the most common questions people have, but aftercare is one of those really common questions.
Are you going to incorporate your current artists that are here? Are they going to pop on the YouTube channel? Kind of
possibly.
I love it.
But for now, it'll probably just be Ask the Tattoo Professor.
That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, and we'll see where it goes.
I'm already thinking of other things. I'm like, you should just have a camera up and just film your guys' day to day. Like, it's really cool to me. It's cool.
It's not as glamorous as people would think, but it's definitely a lot of fun.
Life never is. Yeah. But it's amazing. And then what is your other idea? So you were talking about 2 different YouTubes?
Yeah, so I've got the one coming for the shop, and then
keep on the lookout. We'll post about it.
Yeah, and I actually have a second business launching this year that has nothing to do with the shop. And
is that top secret?
It is not top secret.
Okay.
And so I'm launching a business called The Adulting Professor. And so because I come into contact with so many people in their 20s and 30s, that are often like going to school or just starting college, I engage with people in this really interesting, intimate way here at the shop.
Okay.
And there is a real need for adulting advice, like real adulting skills. I see people coming out of college, young people coming out of college with like no knowledge of how to manage credit, no knowledge of how to pay taxes, no knowledge, like these nuts and bolts life skills that I take for granted because I'm like this scrappy kind of like startup that was on my own at 16, you know? And
which is amazing. That's crazy.
just had to figure it out. Do you want to eat? You're going to work. But, you know, I learned a lot of things the hard way. So I'm going to be teaching basically practical life skills.
I love it.
Through a YouTube channel.
That's
and
amazing.
I've already written a book about it. So I finished my first draft in
That's
December.
the other thing I didn't ask you about. I totally remember that you were writing and you had taken some time. You flew a couple different places to write, to be away and just write.
I had to get away.
That.
Yeah.
I love it.
I had to get away to finish the book. So it's a book on real life adulting skills.
See, this is why you're so inspiring to me. Like, I even forget like how many different amazing things that you do. Like, you can do it all. You really can. And you can just do whatever your heart desires, and I love it. I'm so proud of you and so happy for you.
Oh, well, I feel honored to be here. So I think we have this mutual girl admiration thing
going on. No questions. Well, I just wanted to make sure that we definitely, you know, kind of plugged the shop, which is Rose and Rivets here in Santa Paula, California, almost at Ventura County.
Ventura County, yeah.
Soon to be flight instructor as well, if you need flight lessons.
These days, I'll get there.
You will. How long does that take, by the way? quite a few hundred hours or something? Or
I have almost 250 hours already. I am at the tail end of my instrument rating right now. So I got my private pilot license about a year and a half ago.
Awesome.
A tail wheel endorsement about a year ago. I'm almost done with my instrument rating. Then I have to do a commercial rating and a certified flight instructor rating. So it's probably another year and a half, I'm going to guess, until I'm done. Yeah.
Well, we'll be with you on that journey too. And I can't wait to see what else comes out of this shop and the YouTube and everything. I'm excited for your future.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It was super fun.
I always keep people way too long, so I'm going to let you go. But thank you so much for being with us on Creators Weekly.
Awesome.
And this will probably, hopefully, air before you launch your YouTube, so people can. I think you're going to be my first episode for season 2.
Oh my gosh, what an honor! Thanks for watching.